We know there are many choices in internet radio, and the staff and host of LA Talk Live would like to thank you for choosing the internet's hottest destination for the most eclectic sound and invigorating talk. This is LA Talk Live. We are more than just talk.
Welcome. My name is George Hassan, and you are watching Chai and Chat with George Hassan. Chai and Chat is the active voice of the Iranian American community. It also serves as the gateway to that community. Today we would like to talk about the events that just happened in the Middle East, particularly in Iraq. An amazing event took place on June 15th of this year, 2014, during the talks on the Iran's nuclear in Vienna. And that event created quite a bit of, the reaction was very angry and disappointment from the Iranian American community. And the Obama administration apparently approached the Iranians, the high-ranking Iranians, the governmental mullahs, and initiated kind of an outreach that the administration asked the Islamic Republic of Iran for assistance in crushing Sunni militants that they are causing problems in Iraq and Syria and that region, that part of the world. As I mentioned, the reaction was quite disappointing, quite a bit of created a problem. And it's this situation is a scary parallel, if I'm pronouncing that, between the 1970s President Carter's foreign policy toward Iran and now the President Barack Obama's foreign policy. In an effort to keep you informed, of what is happening in the Middle East, particularly in the Islamic world, I would like to speak about that. And in the parallel part will be I'm going to speak later on. I think first we need to pinpoint where the problem begins and when. All the available records indicate that the problem that we have today, began in 1979 with the flawed and inconsistent policy of our President Jimmy Carter toward Iran. In 1978, Shah of Iran decided to increase the oil from $13 per barrel to $17. And his argument or whatever was that $13 is not enough. You taking our oil and you sending us back in plastics and all kinds of things, and a few thousand times profit or whatever. So that decision to raise the oil apparently was not acceptable by the oil companies, and they got involved into getting Great Britain and the United States involved to getting them to do something about it. And the decision that they made was to do away with the Iran's Shah's regime in 1978. President Carter's foreign policy toward Iran, after that, it became a kind of a calamity, a kind of devastation for Iran, for the Middle East, and for the world, as we see now what happened. And after 35 years, the turmoil, the destruction is getting actually bigger and bigger by the day. And that Iranian believe that after all these years that Jimmy Carter was very naive. He was very naive and clueless, actually, on foreign policies. They believe that his knowledge of foreign policy never extended the Midland, Georgia. When they pulled the rug from under the Shah's government and handed it to some Farsi-speaking Arab clergy, they apparently did not know who are these people that they handed them the nation, the helm. And it's today's the Shiite leaders of Iran are much to blame for the conflict in Iraq today. It seems that Carter administration or President Carter did not bother to ask if these people were actually Iranians or were they Arabs. Carter did not know if these Arabs had any ties to Iran. If they are perhaps double agent if there are Arabs in Iran but working for the other Arab states, as what they're trying to do today is to turn Iran into another Arab state. Carter's advisors were also clueless and inexperienced in foreign policy, as we see what happened. As a result, they managed to turn a secular democratic. I have a problem with that word, secular. Secular democratic nation into an oppressive Islamic extremist that trains and exports terrorists throughout the world, mostly disguised and under the radar, so to speak. I got a copy of the book that President Carter wrote, and I was kind of looking forward to see his views. What did he actually think about what happened, and what did he write about it? I was shocked to see that Carter and President Carter never referred to his plunder, the problem he caused for the world. Nothing. There was only one line in the whole book that said Shah of Iran died today. I'm not quoting it because it was similar to this. Just Shah of Iran died today. That was it. When these clergies, the Farsi-speaking Arab clergies, took over the country, we saw that what happened, or those who remember, that first they showed their gratitude to Carter administration, President Carter, by taking over the American embassy, if you people remember. And they took the staff as a hostage. They also, their hatred, the anti-American, anti-Western fixation started immediately. They burned the American flags, and they down with America, the great Satan, and they just started marching in the streets and looking for some Americans that they could find, and so they can take them hostage. And also, they immediately started training, even it's called from kindergarten training, the Iranian children to become tomorrow's Islamic or Shiite foot soldiers. And they use that extreme Islamic mandates on children with the Khomeini, Ruhollah Khomeini, or Ayatollah Khomeini. His hope was that to have these children to become the soldiers of Islam. And it didn't quite happen today, but nonetheless, the training of terrorists started, and in fact, they started to indoctrinate from other nations, children of other nations, such as went into Africa, into China for that matter, and to Russia, from Chechnya to China, from Albania to Africa, trained terrorists. And today, of course, Iran is a terrorist nation, and they're not the Iranians' direction, but the Arab control. It's a Persian culture and Arab rule. And if you kind of, those who are around 50 years old, they can remember, if they kind of close your eyes and think how the Middle East was, how the rest of the world before the 1979 Islamic Revolution, that thanks to President Carter and Margaret Thatcher and the oil companies, they changed. Iran was a country that was working very hard to join other nations to become a modern nation. And the history of that country shows that they had no wars with any nations. They never went into war. I'm talking about the modern Iranian, not the old history of 1,000 years ago, 5,000 or 4,000 years ago. I'm speaking of the modern Iran during the reign of the great Reza Shah, and of course his son Mohammad Reza Shah, that they worked toward the betterment of their nation, for Iran, and they were very friendly. In fact, they were allies of United States. And we kind of took all of that away. We crushed all of that and gave the country to some people that we did not know who are these people, these Arabs in Iran. Where did they come from? What do they have in mind for the world? What is their global ambitions for the world? Now, back to that parallel that I mentioned earlier between the President Carter's administration's foreign policy and our President Obama's foreign policy. Iranians have, when they get together, and many times through their media, they show that they are puzzled, that they don't quite understand. In fact, they don't even trust now the policies of our President Barack Obama. And perhaps for a good reason. When they hear and they see that United States is approaching stretching the arm toward the mullah's government, and they ask for the cooperation of two nations to crush the Sunnis, and cutting deals with Iran, they are, again, it's very difficult to blame them for their outrage, for their anger. It seems that our president doesn't have the vaguest idea who are these people, where did they come from, and as I said, what do they have in mind for us? Number one, I would like to. There are several reasons, of course, behind the Iranians' argument. The number one is that there is a big, or rather a major difference between fighting terrorists, which United States has been doing, than fighting a sectarian war. Uh, let's look at this scenario. If American uh, soldiers, whatever, they kill terrorists, they don't very much uh, talk about it because we all know that these people are terrorists. But if one person, one child of one of the side, either Shiite or Sunni, is killed, especially by an American, the whole scenario changes. It's unbelievable. It becomes like a tsunami, not some problem like a little storm. It is no longer considered fighting terrorists. Shiite and Sunnis are known that they join each other to fight a common enemy. And if one child is killed, that's a good excuse for them to set all their problems aside and unite against America, against the people who that, because they always have been looking for that kind of incidents, excuse. That was one item. The second is that Iran and American communities, and in fact the world, believes that Iran's mullah's government is supporting terrorists. We know that now. In Syria and Iraq, actually they caused to kill American soldiers. And they are indeed responsible for the death of some civilian, some American soldiers in Iraq and in Afghanistan. And to America to join a terrorist group while fighting terror and terrorists is an inconsistent policy. You want to go to bed with a terrorist nation to fight terror. Asking Iran to help fight Sunni to stabilize Iraq is having U.S. like officially giving the key to the mullahs to move in Iraq. As this is one of the mandates. This is one thing that they wanted to do, is to control the Iraqi Shiites. And it's a large subject, actually. It doesn't fit into the today's scope of what I'm talking about. But this is one of their goals and desires, to unite all the Shiites, so you'll give them the key to move in there. Also, we have to bear in mind, United States has to, whether the State Department or President Obama's administration, they have to remember that mullah's government is the number one in human rights violations in the world. United Nations have said it many times. The organizations who watch these violations of human rights have said it. It's a record that is something that has been said for 20 or 30 years. And conversely, America has always been advocating, is a nation that advocating democracy and human rights in the world. We are the beacon of the democracy and freedom in the world. We spend billions of dollars, sacrifice for lives, so we can promote, so we can advocate this, our democracy, throughout the world, and particularly to the countries they don't have, such as Middle Eastern countries, Islamic countries, I have to say. And to United States to endorse, to support that kind of government, to join them, to acknowledge that the existence of that kind of government is a troubling. It's a troubling when our president asked that government, let's cooperate, let's have a joint military. And of course, they won't do that. And I'm pretty sure they turn it down. The reason is because they have always bluffed about everything. These Arab clergies of Iran who rule the Iran today are very good at bluffing. For 30 years, they've been getting Americans believing that the nuclear problem, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, and they do that with it for advantages. We have helped them now. During the Shah's regime, I remember there were a few billions of dollars that each country has in the other countries. They have like about 4 billion. And after 35 years, the administration of Obama decided to give that money as part of some pact or agreement now they have with Iran to back to Iranian. Actually, did not belong to this Arab, that money. It belongs to the Iranians who are outside of that country. But anyway, they did that. So to that also, it's, as I said, it's kind of troubling to see that we go outside of our constitution, our what number one thing that we cherish, which is democracy, which is freedom, and we were telling the world, and yet go and join a nation who is known to, they are number one in violations, in violating that human rights. I will be back with Chai and Chat after a brief, actually putting on a music. Okay. Yeah, we'll be right back.
تو رعنا رو بنازم، تو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم، تو که با عشق نگری از همه دل میبری، مرا شیدا میکنی چرا نمیرقصی، تو که با موی طلا بر و بالای بلا فتنه برپا میکنی چرا نمیرقصی، قد و بالای تو رعنا رو بنازم، نو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم، ای سبک رقص بلا تو مکن ناز و بیا، تو که در رقص طرف شو بد بازی، ای گل عشق و صفا مرا از محفل ما، تو که شاداب تر از هر گل نازی، قد و بالای تو رعنا رو بنازم، نو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم. ببری از دل من تاب و توانم، چو خرامی ز تمنا فکنی برق هم از بر دل و جانم به نگاهم چو گریزی تو پدیزاد مگر خواب و خیالی چو شمعگر به خرامی تو که شیرین تر از امید وصالی قد و بالای تو رنا رو بنازم نو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم فکنی برق هوس بر دل و جانم ز نگاهم چو گریزی تو پدیزاد مگر خواب و خیالی چه شود گر به خرامی تو که شیرین تر از امید وصالی قد و بالای تو رنا رو بنازم نو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم قد و بالای تو رنا رو بنازم نو گل باغ تمنا رو بنازم قد و بالای تو رنا رو بنازم نو گل باغ قسم خوردم و خدایا دگر بندر نیایم اگر آیم دوباره بشکند ساق پایم روم قایق بگیرم به دریاها شبم گو که چرا دل بر من شده عروس مردم قسم خوردم و خدایا دگر بندر نیایم اگر آیم دوباره بشکند ساق پایم روم قایق بگیرم به دریاها شبم گم که چرا دل بر من شده عروس مردم روم دور از دیارم به دریاها بمیرم روم داده دلم راز ماهیا بگیرم شب و روزم هدر شد به راه صید ماهی شب و روزم هدر شد به راه صید ماهی پس از این صید ماهی شبم خواهی نخواهی پس از این صید ماهی شبم خواهی نخواهی اگر چشم مادرم شود چون چشمه خون اگر چشم مادرم شود چون چشمه خون ز دریا بر نگردم شدم دیگر چو مجنون ز دریا بر نگردم شدم دیگر چو مجنون
Welcome back. This is George Hassan, and you're watching Chai and Chat with George Hassan. Chai and Chat is the gateway to the Iranian and for the Iranian communities. We talked about the latest problem or latest event that created a harsh response from the, disappointing, actually, I'll say, response from the Iranian American community when the administration of our President Barack Obama, approached Iranians on June 15th in Vienna while they were talking about the nuclear thing that's going on and on and on for many years now, and approached them to see if they can jointly crush this new problem that causing really a big headaches and problem for the Middle Eastern and to the world. That is the IS, who are killing indiscriminating people, Shiites and whatever, and they took over the city of Mosul in Iraq, and they are pushing toward Baghdad as we are speaking. So United States approached Iranians and said if we could jointly to take care of this problem. And I'm not sure what the response was for Iran, but it helped them in many ways, and I mentioned a few. I'm going to go over them again very quickly and get back to. Number one that the problem is that the asking a nation, rather a people who rule that nation, that is Arab Iranians, that the government that's supporting terrorists in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan, and actually have caused that many deaths of American soldiers. This is well known, and asking this group will be a kind of inconsistent policy, because we are fighting terrorists and we're asking a terrorist nation to help us, to join them, is not exactly a good policy. Number one. Two, when we do that and a joint Iranian Shiites, this government of Shiite of Iran, one of their biggest desire or agenda or goal is to control also the Shiites of Iraq, and they've been doing that for actually half a century, maybe more, but not in a official kind of way. Unofficially been doing that. But if we ask him to join and they go into Iraq, then they would, as if giving him the key to that nation, which is they're working toward that, to have that place anyway. And the third is that we have to go outside of our constitutions, our whatever we have cherished, our way of life, our way of to promoting democracy. We have to go outside of that, because United Nations has many times announced and blamed Iran for being the number one nation in human rights violations. And so if you go and kind of sleep in the same bed with them, what kind of that would tell us? What that kind of policy would tell our children, people who are watching, that yes, we know that you are number one in violations. You hang people, you torture, you murder people daily basis. You have killed thousands upon thousands, and you're doing it today, and violating human rights with the rapes and all other problems that going in that the jails and whatever in there. And so we have to put all of that aside and say, okay, no, that's not bad what you're doing, because we need you now or whatever. So that would be giving a message also kind of negative and very bad. And also probably the biggest problem that the Iranian American community have talk about and know is that what I see also is that once we started to acknowledge, once we started to asking for their help, it means that we are legitimizing a terrorist nation. If we tell them, okay, now we're friends, you come with us, and we're going to beat, you and I going to beat the third person, the Sunnis or whatever, we'll be doing that. It'll be that we recognize you, that you as a terrorist nation now is legitimized, is okay. And most of all, United States will show a weakness, that we are weak. We cannot do anything. We cannot do without your help. Can you imagine what kind of message we are giving them? That you have been saying that we are weak, America is weak, America go to hell, America this and that. In fact, Khamenei, the supreme leader of today, have always said that America is very weak, and we'll be able to crush America, we'll be able to do this, to do that, burn the flags and all other things. And now we actually, by asking them for help, we indirectly or directly actually we're telling them that yes, we are weak. You great, or you almighty great nation now in the area in the Middle East, we need your help. And that is something that it's very hard to digest for Americans to bow over, to say, okay, yes, we need your help and we are weak. That would also encourages the mullahs to continue the business as usual, which is terrorizing the Iranians inside, and a menace or menacing people to the world. Because then we can't say anything. It's a legitimized nation, whatever. It would also, see, Iranians outside are trying to gain back their country, get back their country from the very handful of Arabs, less than 1%, that they have used the religion as a tool, as a weapon to crush that nation. and to turn it into another Arab state. So we will be discouraging those Iranians who wants to get their dignity back, their nation back, who wants to get back once where it was a country that you could depend on, the country that you could, that country was an ally to the United States. If you remember, well, you can see in Wikipedia or whatever, you could refer to that if you're young. Iran was an ally to the United States. Iran was the biggest, always worried about the American economy. We were the biggest buyers of the whatever American made the war materials, number one, billions of dollars. And so the people are fighting Iranians like myself, or almost everyone I know, and everywhere throughout the world. There are over 5 million of them now displaced and whatever. And they are fighting to get back their countries because they don't want to have a place called Iran represented by some Arabs who are terrorists. Iranians never were terrorists. The history shows that. The record shows that they were a very, I would say, a good people, a nice, a good nation, friendly nation. I remember when I was in Iran in 1950s, as I was working as interpreter, and again I go back to saying that, if you can say, oh, him no come here, or him go here, you are interpreter. And I was working as interpreter, and so I had a good seat in a political scene. I was working with the American Army, and so I had the doors were open, so to speak, because I was translating from English into Farsi or vice versa. So I heard things, I saw things, I traveled with the Americans, different places. I went to American clubs and embassies, and as I said, the door was open for me. And so I saw things happening. Americans there Iran and America were very friendly, probably the best in that area. I remember going to there was a building. I believe, was called the Friends of America, that had books in there, and you go in there, have hear the latest, have a cup of coffee. Everything was free, and you questions you had, and there are lots of books there that you could get. They're all free. Take home and read in Farsi and in English about democracy, about freedom, about the American Constitution, about the things that the American way of life. There were some movies you could watch there. Movies about John Wayne and all other heroes that Iranian young people, kids, emulated or copied. Every single young Iranian that I know, boys and girls, they love this country. They love America. They love the American way of life. They love American democracy. They want to come here and learn and go back and apply it to their own country. In here, in the United States, when I just came here, I got drafted in the Army, and in Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio, Texas, I was also working as interpreter. And there were Iranian interns or young doctors who would come to Fort Sam Houston for a period of 6 months or 8 months or a year, I was working as an interpreter, and I could see things. I could see that love, that respect, that mutual thing that was being between United States and Iran. The building in Tehran that I mentioned, that has all those books free, and the people with the biggest smile, Americans, they just want to show Iranians the American way of life. Help them with and they did not go outside and grab somebody, hey, come in. You went on so you walked in there, you walked around, and they helped you if you like to have a book on democracy in Farsi, or you book on anything that in the world. They will give you that book free, and you sit there, have a cup of coffee. Anyway, it was just a beautiful place. But this Arab mullah, the very first thing they did, they demolished that. They burned all those books and everything. It was heartbreaking to see that kind of ignorance, that kind of darkness, that kind of mentality that modern things are no good. All we need is that Holy Quran, which is 1400 years old. And whatever, you don't need any books. You don't need to go to school unless you go into school to understand Quran or whatever, Islamic school or religion school. Anyway, all of these things that we had, that we lost, we like to get them back. We like to have a proud nation. For Iranians who come outside today, they are treated differently. They are detained in the airports and searched so many times that it's unbelievable. It's just because they are Iranians. The world, Iran has lost the face that whatever had before the Islamic Revolution. And the people in there today are like as if they are in concentration camp. Because Khomeini's Islamic mandate, or Mein Kampf, whatever it's called, it says that. It created that problem for them. Anyway, they're trying to, it would discourage all of these people who are trying to get their nation back. Today, there is no nation in the world as volatile, or am I pronouncing this word right? Volatile, volatile. Okay, as dangerous, as cunning, as crafty as these handful of Farsi-speaking Arabs who have subjugated a nation, the nation of Iran, the Iran that we knew. Finally, Mr. President, please take a good look at your advisors. Take a second look at your advisors, those who advise you on Islam particularly, and the Middle East. I believe one of the reasons that Carter administration did what they did and agreed to pull the rug from under the semi-democratic government of the Shah was because of advisors also. Advisors like Brzezinski, like Bernard Lewis, who is a gentleman who have written 30 or 40 books on Middle East, particularly on Islam, Islam and Christianity and Judaism. He has written many, many books, but he has never been in Iran. He had never attended one of those seminary or places where they teach Islam to see what kind of Islam these Arab of Iran or clergy are teaching. So I believe, Mr. President, you are playing a very dangerous game in the Middle East. If you don't watch your steps, these people, these Arabs of Iran are very crafty. That's all they do for centuries. They go to Qom, Karbala, and Najaf in Iraq only to learn to be conniving, to be able to deceive people. They have nothing to do with any religion. There is not a single article of faith, religion in the Shiite doctrine. Have somebody take a look at it. See why they made things such as called taqiyya, that people can lie. It's a permissible lie, and they can lie day and night as long as they lie for the good of Islam. You should ask him, what is taqiyya in Shiite? Ask him, what is this about the place where you copy? It's called marja taqlid. What is the interpretation of jihad for Iran, for these mullahs? They say jihad means that you better yourself. It's for a betterment of human. You fight with yourself. The hell. You don't fight with yourself. Jihad is to kill a Christian, to kill a Jew, to kill a Baha'i, to kill. On that subject of jihad, I spent some money. I had in Tehran, in Shiraz and Isfahan, some friends. I asked them, would you do this? Would you go stand on the corner of busy street and ask people who walk by, people who pass by, ask them what they think of jihad, what is it really jihad, what they mean by jihad? I got answer for one of them. The gentleman went there for 2 days, and he interviewed over a few hundreds before the mullahs or pastoran came and stopped him and actually questioned him. He said that out of 340 something that he asked, not a single one of them said, yes, jihad is something that you fight to make yourself a better human being. That is, it's not. They said jihad is to kill a non-believer, unbeliever. An unbeliever or non-believer for the Shia of Iran is Christians, Jews, Baha'is, even Sunnis, which they are Muslim. And I want to thank you people who listen to me, and it is sometimes kind of boring. And until next week, this is Chai and Chat, George Hassan. God bless you.